How can ordinary things, things you can actually see and touch, like water or a piece of bread, how in the world can they grant eternal life? Now that is one of the deepest, most fascinating questions in early Christian thought. And you know what? A truly brilliant mind in the 4th century actually set out to answer it. So, today we're diving into what you can almost call a divine upgrade, the incredible way early Christians, and one thinker in particular, explained the actual mechanics of salvation. We're digging into the work of Gregory of Nyssa. Now, this guy was a philosopher and a theologian, and he wasn't satisfied with just saying, oh, it's a mystery. No, he wanted to build a logical bridge using analogies from the everyday world to help people really get their heads around these huge spiritual ideas. So how did he pull it off? Well, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the big problem he was trying to solve. Then we'll look at his amazing explanations for baptism and the Eucharist, see how they lead to a total rebirth, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with the great transformation he's talking about. All right, first things first, the fundamental challenge. How can something from our physical, temporary world have any real effect on the spiritual, eternal part of us? How do you possibly connect two completely different dimensions? Gregory's answer is all about the concept of a sacrament. The best way to think of it is like a physical gateway. It's an action in our world, an outward visible sign that opens up a channel to an inward spiritual grace. It's the bridge that connects those two worlds. Okay, so let's see this bridge in action, starting with his first major example, baptism. For Gregory, this was so much more than just a symbolic bath. We're talking about a complete reboot of the soul. In his original writings, Gregory explains that the physical act of baptism is actually a powerful reenactment of the ultimate story, death and resurrection. It's a way for a person to literally participate in that story themselves. And he draws such a clear line here. Going down into the water mirrors going down into death. It's this powerful physical metaphor for a huge spiritual reality. He lays it all out like this clear 3-act play. First, you enter the water, which symbolizes a death to your old self. Then, you're submerged, which is a kind of burial. And then, you emerge, totally reborn into a new kind of life. It's just an incredibly powerful and simple structure. But Gregory didn't stop there. He knew the word cleansing could sound a little superficial. So he used another, even more powerful analogy to explain what's really happening to the soul during all this. And this just brilliantly shows the depth of the change he's talking about. It's not about washing some dirt off the surface. No, it's like taking impure gold and putting it in a furnace. The fire doesn't destroy the gold, right? It just burns away all the junk, leaving only the pure stuff behind. For Gregory, baptism was a spiritual refining fire. This brings us to the next great mystery, the Eucharist. How can simple bread and wine offer immortality? Well, Gregory framed it as a form of divine medicine, an antidote to the poison of being mortal. So how does this medicine actually work? He needed a great analogy to show how something divine could transform something human. And he found the perfect one in, of all places, the ancient process of baking bread. This quote really gets to the heart of it. He compares the divine element in the Eucharist to leaven, or what we'd call a sourdough starter. Just a tiny amount has the power to completely change everything it touches. Think about how bread is made, right? You take just a small piece of that living leaven and you mix it into this huge lump of kind of lifeless dough. And that leaven doesn't just sit there. It works its way through the entire batch, changing its very nature from the inside out, making the whole thing rise and come alive. And that is Gregory's model for the Eucharist. The divine nature gets infused into the bread and wine. When a person consumes it, that divine element acts just like leaven in our bodies, transforming our mortal nature from within and giving us the property of immortality. It really is a divine upgrade delivered through a physical medium. So you see, these two sacraments, baptism and the Eucharist, they aren't just one-off rituals. For Gregory, they are the catalysts for a complete and total inner transformation, a true rebirth. And this just shows you the before and after perfectly. Our original created nature is mortal and, it's prone to decay. But the reborn nature is fundamentally different. It's eternal, stable, and incorruptible. It's like he's talking about a change to our very operating system. But, and this is a really key point, this upgrade isn't some passive download. Gregory makes it super clear that it requires our active participation. It demands an inner conversion, a conscious choice to turn towards and live in this new transformed state of being. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, why should we care about the theological mechanics laid out by some guy from 1700 years ago? What's so powerful about Gregory's work is that he wasn't just laying down dogma. He was explaining it. He used logic and these incredible, relatable analogies, refining gold, baking bread, to build a rational framework that connected the ordinary, physical world we all live in to the possibility of an extraordinary spiritual transformation. And really, that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In our own search for meaning, what can we learn from this ancient way of seeing the world? From someone who believed that the most profound truths weren't far away at all, but were actually hidden in plain sight, in the most ordinary things all around us.